Okay,
Let's talk about Michael Cohen. Yesterday, through his attorney, he's going to be taking the fifth. What's your reaction to that, being that you work with him for a couple of decades as your attorney?
And he's a good person.
What's at stake for you, Mr. President?
Hey, look, Brian, you know Michael. Michael's been on your show, I'm sure, a lot. You know, Michael
We know.
is a good person. Let me just tell you that Michael is in business. He's really a businessman, a fairly big business, as I understand it. I don't know his business. But this doesn't have to do with me. Michael is a businessman. He's got a business. He also practices law. I would say probably the big thing is his business, and they're looking at something having to do with his business. I have nothing to do with his business. I can tell you, he's a good guy.
But isn't his business your attorney, Mr. President?
Well, I have many, just so you understand, I have many attorneys. I have attorneys. Sadly, I have so many attorneys you wouldn't even believe it.
How much of your, Mr. President, how much of your legal work was handled by Michael Cohen?
Well, as a percentage of my overall legal work, a tiny, tiny little fraction.
Back in 2018, when Michael Cohen was still lying on behalf of Donald Trump, the former president wanted to make sure people were convinced he's a good, honest guy. Oh, and his shady court decisions had nothing to do with him.
Michael would represent me on some things. He represents me, like with this crazy Stormy Daniels deal. He represented me, and, from what I see, he did absolutely nothing wrong. There were no campaign funds going into this.
Then why is he pleading the fifth?
Would have been a problem. Because he's got other things. He's got businesses. And from what I understand, they're looking at his businesses. And I hope he's in great shape. Yeah. But he's got businesses, and his lawyers probably told him to do that. But I'm not involved, and I'm not involved. And I've been told I'm not involved.
I mean, everything Michael is doing regarding me is great. Maybe he's in some hot water over something else he does that I don't know anything about. The tightrope that he had to walk to legitimize the lies Cohen told on his behalf while distancing himself from the ones he hoped would only take Cohen down is even more stark now that we know what really happened.
In the media's world, the disbarred lawyer who wears Superman T-shirts, cowboy hats, and Roman war helmets is the one we have to take seriously. Fighting for due process rights? That's just pathetic. Why is the star witness in the so-called trial of the century wearing costumes like a theater kid anyway? What's in it for me should be written on Cohen's tombstone. Cohen could never work in corporate America again. He's angry, he's broke. So he went on a revenge tour. Anti-Trump book deals, T-shirts, Netflix, TikTok, CNN, trashing Trump for income and saying anything that could put the man who made him behind bars. All because Trump wouldn't bring him to Washington and make him White House chief of staff. When your star witness is a rat who lies for cheese, you know your case is fizzling out.
I wonder if these defenders of Trump realize that it's obvious that the only point in Michael Cohen's life that they pay attention to his propensity to lie is when he's testifying against his former boss, who he got the reputation as a liar for. They just call him a liar, hoping no one notices that he lied for the sake of the guy that they worship. Their desperation to shield Trump from his right-hand man that flipped on him after being busted is masked in overconfident and unfounded claims that his testimony against Trump is suddenly the dishonest part.
I don't think that the prosecution wanted to end with Michael Cohen. The problem for them is they went too far last week with the Stormy Daniels testimony, and they realized if they're going to bring more of the kind of witnesses that they had in mind, that it would really trigger a mistrial. So they're trying to get out fast while they can. The terrible thing is their worst witness, the person with all of the credibility issues, to the extent that he's been convicted of lying to both Congress and the special counsel. That's hard to do. Usually you only lie to one or the other, but he lied to both of them. That's a neat trick. This has got to be one of the worst witnesses that you could put. In fact, Jim and I were both at the Justice Department. I think he would share this view. We would never have authorized a prosecution like this that was so dependent on someone who's been convicted of federal crimes for lying. I think there's a good chance that this judge would have to dismiss these charges as not proven even before you put on a defense.
The plan is to confidently claim that the judge, jury, prosecution are all biting their nails and punching the tables over how badly this went in court, since Fox News viewers weren't there to see it for themselves, so that if Trump loses the case, no one will believe that it's based on anything concrete, just like how they baselessly sowed distrust in our election system, causing MAGA to lose their minds when it didn't work out in their favor. But Steve Doocy already poked holes in this tactic days ago.
It sounds like the prosecution knows that he's got the problematic background, and so far they brought in other people to essentially say the same stuff he's going to say. Now he's going to take the stage, say it, but then they're going to go, you can't trust that guy, but then the prosecution's going to say, yeah, but what about those other people who said the same thing?
Man, Doocy might be talking his way out of a job at Fox News with all this factual reality that he's delivering during their daily spin cycles. He's lost his way from the normal plan of going so far over the top and say that the prosecution was so bad that they proved the defense's case.
Bottom line is, they have created, that is the prosecution, has created a narrative. And the narrative is really simple. It's this. Donald Trump got involved with some unsavory people. And then when it came time to run for office, he wanted to get away from them and hide them. That's it. That's the whole narrative. And that's what they're going to take into the deliberations. And so, two things. First of all, it's going to make Merchan's charge to the jury. I know I've been on about this on the network. That is very procedural. It can be kind of dull. That is where the rubber hits the road here. What he tells them about an NDA being legal or not is going to be very, very important. We got to watch that. Okay. But secondly, unfortunately, and as I said, I know that room, you can pull all the legal issues out and put them on the side. Very often the narrative can be enough. And Al Bragg's office knows that. And that's why when Stormy comes off as less than upright, when Cohen looks like an unsavory character, it kind of works for the prosecution. It feeds that narrative. So all I would say is if you're on the Trump side of things, there's people talking about it's going to be an acquittal and et cetera, manage expectations because let's just remember this is a Manhattan jury.